Welcome to episode 10 of Last Chance Franchise. It's the off-season episode, which means we begin with the end-of-year awards, with the stats, and with some more upgrading players. We then move on to looking at free agency, and we've got some changes to make in the coaching staff. But let's first take a look at weekly awards, because that means one of our players won a weekly award to finish off the season, and it was Jon Bostic. Not bad. 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery, 1 touchdown. Pretty deserved, although to be fair, I think other players shined a little bit more. But then again, a touchdown is a touchdown, even though Sean Weatherspoon forced it. Let's take a look at the yearly awards. Let's see if anybody won anything here. I haven't really been keeping an eye on this, in all honesty. I didn't really expect anybody to get it. We, of course, had some rookies, but did anyone play enough and well enough? I don't know. MVP goes to Carson Wentz. Coach of the Year to Sean McVay. We were always in the running for Coach of the Year later on. Never in the year where we get rid of everybody and, run with a bunch of cast-offs. So, NFC, let's take a look. Offensive Player of the Year was Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys went 9-7 with him. Defensive Player of the Year, Mac Barron of the Rams, who went 13-3. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Saquon Barkley. Can't argue with that. But Christian Kirk right there with him. That's a bit of a shame, but I'm sure he played much better than him. I mean, after all, he's an 87 overall and Christian Kirk's a 74. So, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Roquan Smith could be a realistic candidate. Shaquem Griffin right behind him. Then Ronnie Harrison. We had a bunch of guys there. Perry Nickerson pretty high up as well. Sam Beal. Honestly, I don't know how Sam Beal made it, but he makes it in. So both times we miss out on the Defensive and Offensive Rookie of the Years. I'm not expected to get Best Quarterback. Of course, Carson Wentz, Best Running Back. Elliott, Best Wide Receiver. Is Mike Wallace. There's an interesting one. And, well, we're not there anytime soon. Best O-line, Brandon Brooks. It's the Eagles dominating this one, and every now and then the Rams coming up too. Chandler Jones gets Best D-line. Of course, we sent him over to the Panthers. That's always a kick when one of the players we sent away is the best in his position. Jordan Hicks really is all Eagles here. Best linebacker. We're again not in the running there. Best DB. Richard Sherman gets that one. And Patrick Peterson, not far off, number 3. That's not bad. And the best kicker is Matt Bryant. So we don't show up at all in this one. I thought we might have a chance because we had some real rookies. We had some, still some actual good players, but not a chance. Rookies, we were close. Everything else, not even close. But we do get to upgrade players. I don't know if this is just going to be Jon Bostic for his Player of the Week. No, it's going to be a bunch of guys I assume these 2 guys for making it high in the list. 6 skill points available for Ronnie Harrison. Wow. So Ronnie Harrison is now a 78 overall. That turns a possible position of need into a position of no need to touch ever. And Shaquem Griffin gets 2 skill points here, which makes him a little bit better too. But his position remains, linebacker. We can always add a little bit there. So, I mean, he's going to be good and he's going to be safe, pretty safe at 75 overall. He'll be when we finish with him. But those 2 guys have really impressed me with those upgrades. So that's that part out of the way. Let's take a look at the end of season stats and let's see how everybody did, because some guys could be proud of themselves, some not. Josh Rosen in the end, 32nd in passing yards, 32nd in passing touchdowns. Obviously not a great place to finish, but he did also not manage to play every game possible. It's a touch and go rookie season. 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I mean, at least it's not Joe Webb's 3 and 8. Nathan Peterman had a better ratio, but it wasn't great either. 66% completion percentage is not bad, but 33 sacks and all the rest of the guys took. We'll be shoring up that line. We've got the quarterback of the future. We need to shore up the line, not just for him, for the running backs too. It ends up being Eddie Lacy leading with 569 yards. The averages actually aren't too bad, but 5 total touchdowns from rushing and one of them's from the quarterback. That's not good enough. Chase Edmonds did show something actually, and we will hope to keep using him. He ended up playing 10 games, and so did Josh Rosen. So Josh Rosen on 10 games played, those stats aren't too bad, I guess. Receiving, Christian Kirk, that's nice. Not only is it a lot of yards, it's a lot of receptions. 80 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's a rookie season to have. And Larry Fitzgerald, 62 receptions, 729 yards, 6 touchdowns. I like the way this ball was spread out between those 2 guys. High volume, but also, spread between some guys. Devin Cajuste, 35 receptions, 360 yards. Carlos Henderson, 24, 236. So there it drops off a little bit. I think we need another guy that's got, we need Christian Kirk to be over 100. We need Fitzgerald to be right around that number and another guy to be around 50, 60. And we'll be happy with how that passing game is. blocking, let's not, let's just take a quick look and let's just move straight on. Nothing good happening there. And then, there we go. That's how you get yourself a bunch of upgrade points. Finish the season with 103 tackles from the strong safety position. Most on the team. Second most on the team, Sean Weatherspoon. Very happy with how he turned out on this team. Then it's Stefan Anthony with 75, Lonnie Ballantyne with 74, who of course we lost to injury with a few games left to go in the season. Let's take a look at the sacks. Who leads the team there? It's Shaquem Griffin with 14.5. I mean, he does have ridiculous speed, so he's going to beat a lot of guys around the corner. 14.5 sacks for him. 7.5 for Anthony, 7 for Bostic, 7 for Odighizuwa. That's not bad. That's the only end really that's high up there, and then the rest spread out with smaller numbers. Interceptions. Let's take a look what happened here. Patrick Peterson with 5. 5 that happened quite early in the season, Could have done with a few more and a few games later on, but that's not his job. He needs some guys helping him out. And Perry Nickerson late in the season stepped up. Pretty much all of those coming in the last, 6 or so games. And then 2 for Anthony, 2 for Bostic, 2 for Ballantyne, 2 for Harrison, 2 for Fabian Moreau, which I think happened earlier in the season. 1 for John Franklin III, of course. And 1 for Bam Bradley. And forced fumbles, Shaquem Griffin with 3, Stefan Anthony with 2, and then 1 for a few guys here. And that pretty much ends it. Well, let's take a look at the safeties. We get a few of those. 2 for Shaquem Griffin, 1 for Anthony. And let's take a look at the touchdowns, of course, and that will end it for significant stats. Patrick Peterson scored 3. Now I'm actually a little bit surprised how he didn't at least get best DB, but, 3 touchdowns. They seem to not count these as heavily as they should, even though Bostic got Player of the Week for 1. Anthony with 1, Bostic with 1, Perry Nickerson with 1, and Bam Bradley with 1. We get touchdowns on this defense. We need a few more, though, if we're going to play the same on offense. But hopefully we won't be playing the same on offense. So that's the stats looked at. Now let's talk about our offense. Offensive yards, last in the NFL by a long mile. Pass yards, last by a long mile. Rush yards, not actually last and somewhat high up there. Actually, let's see, we have to count. I'm not going to count all the way through. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, blah, blah, blah. Probably around middle of the league there with rush yards. Points per game. Again, actually isn't worse. Bengals are worse than us. And, well, they're 3-12, so you figure they're worse than us. Okay, we're the second worst. 16 points per game. It's just awful. It's really not good. Let's see. First downs. Not surprised we have the absolute least in the NFL. This offense has been terrible. Let's take a look at the defense because, of course, that's why our head coach is here, is for the defense. And we are number 1 in the NFL in yards allowed. The best defense in terms of yards in the NFL. Looks like we're about, top 10 in pass and rushing. Probably where we're best, absolutely. Just a little bit worse than the Rams. The Rams really are there right on our tail, and they're an incredible defense. Points allowed, I don't know if that's going to be us. No, it's not. Quite high up. Again, very good, but quite high up in terms of how well everything else was. Sacks, we've got to be high up on that one. We're 3rd, not bad. Fumble recoveries, we're not that high. Forced fumbles, I think we'd be a lot higher. Let's take a look at interceptions, where I think we'll do pretty well. We absolutely do well. We lead the NFL in interceptions. Defense is not a problem. The reason why this head coach is here is exactly what we ended up following through on, is having solid defense. And that is with a lot of new players on the team. Now, let's not bother with any of those other things. What we know for sure is that this is not good enough. Okay, we're not the worst total offense, to be fair. We're just the 5th worst. We're the worst passing offense, and we are supposed to be a passing team. I mean, look by how many 1,000 yards, almost 1,000 yards were worse than. Rushing is a little bit better, but it's just terrible, and we're going to have to change that. Now, there's a few big names to keep an eye on when it comes to, the coaching market. But we're obviously going to learn a lot more when this season has come to an end. Teams will make some moves and we'll see what's available. Of course, we may be looking at maybe a less known name, but fact is, we will be looking for an offensive coordinator. We'll move on now to the Pro Bowl, see if any of our players made it in. Would, of course, explain how Ronnie Harrison was so incredibly good. If he's on the Pro Bowl roster, let's take a look. And we just saw as well, I don't know if you saw it flashing by, we'll take a proper look. It's the Patriots and the Eagles. A rematch immediately after the fact. They're straight back in it at each other, and let's see how that one goes. But first, we want to take a look at the Pro Bowl, and of course, Carson Wentz and Tom Brady are the number 1 quarterbacks there. and we're just going to be looking for our players. I'm going slightly slowly so you can stop and have a look yourself if you're interested in any other positions, but we're just taking a look to see where our players are, and they're nowhere so far. I think one or two could come from the defense, of course. That's where we played well this year, and still not there. It's nice to see some guys with lower overalls. You don't see that too often, but they're here. And at right outside linebacker, the number 1 spot, it's Shaquem Griffin. Of course, not actually where he played so much for us. He was more of a rush end specialist with his speed and everything, but of course that is his actual position for us. And strong safety Ronnie Harrison in the number 2 spot. I mean, that's 2 great additions. They're rookies, they're just going to get better. I mean, Ronnie Harrison got significantly better from this season. Very happy with how those 2 acquisitions worked out. Of course, you know, one guy absolutely fits the Last Chance franchise model. Ronnie Harrison not so much, just kind of found his way onto the team and, well, has certainly proven himself. So let's move on. Of course, we won't be seeing who wins the Super Bowl in this next week. We'll just be getting a confirmation of who's in it, and we'll get a bunch of guys returning from injury, but we've got some scouting to do. We'll get that out of the way. We'll move on to the re-signing period, and then we'll be moving on to free agency, where there's some holes to be filled, that's for sure. And there it is. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the way we wanted it. We had a chance to re-sign him, but I really do think it was his time. 15 years, we gave him one good last season, a solid season in terms of production for him. He scored, you know, tied for most touchdowns on the team, 68 catches or whatever it was, 700 yards. For how long he's been in the league, the position, it was a very good year. I think one more year would have been too much. His speed wasn't there, and it was only going to get worse with his age, and he retires. Brent Selleck retires after having spent only 1 season with a different team, except for the Eagles. And, you know, he just wanted one more year. He wanted to see what he could still do when we gave him that chance. And Andy Lee retires as well, so we're going to need a punter. So in the revenge matchup, the Patriots beat the Eagles 49-35. And we've got a lot of work to do here with re-signing players. 34 contracts to negotiate. Let's super quickly go through everything. So, contracts done. A quick recap of who we re-signed. Luke Jokel, we re-signed. Caleb Brantley, we re-signed. CJ Prosise, we re-signed. Odighizuwa. I'm going to stop saying we re-signed. Perry Nickerson, we brought back. We brought him back for a few more years than just 1. I think we ended up getting him to 3 years. Devin Kajus, we brought back. Lonnie Ballantyne as well. Although, I'd start to look at that 69 overall. It's a little bit lower, especially when we consider how good, you know, Ronnie got. But we got to keep Lonnie around. Eddie Lacy, we decided, let him test free agency. In all honesty, when you look at these players, a lot of them are going to be around in free agency even after the period is over where everyone's getting picked up. Sean Weatherspoon, of course he's back. Just the 1-year deal, but hopefully, you know, he'll see out his career with us. He'll be a 2nd-year captain for us, which will be important. And John Franklin we brought back. He's got to stay on the team, of course. Everyone else here we let go. Everybody's gone. Kevin White wants to test out free agency because I wasn't willing to pay him that much, and he dropped down anyway. Our top receivers now, of course, will be Kirk and Henderson. They'll be at the top, and we'll see what we do below them. Maybe actually now think about drafting somebody, because a little bit of a shock there. Didn't 100% expect Fitzgerald to retire. Now, that's got nothing to do with it, because really I shouldn't have not thought about signing new people because of him, but you're kind of happy with the situation when it comes to numbers. Kevin White leaving adds a little bit of urgency to it. Stephon Anthony, of course we re-signed him. He's not only going to be a 2nd-year captain, he's going to be a starter, he's going to be important, and then everybody else is gone. Even our starting center, Ronis Grasu, like I said, a bunch of these guys are going to be here when we enter free agency. No one's going to be desperate to pick them up, and that's exactly where we'll move now. Free agency period. But before we do that, of course, we're about to sign some players, but we need to see who are we signing players for if we get anybody on offense. We need that offensive coordinator. And so we've made a signing. Now, unfortunately, a few guys became available. By that I mean were fired, but all a little bit too high profile to take over for us, offensive coordinator. Now, one of them was never going to find a place as offensive coordinator. That's Marvin Lewis, of course, a defensive guy. Then there was Mike McCarthy. I thought Mike McCarthy theoretically could have been great in terms of being a quarterback mentor, you know, a good system. Also has been a head coach for like 12, 13 years, and getting him to be an offensive coordinator would have been a bit tricky. One guy who still currently doesn't have a job, and that's because, well, he decided to retire, was Andy Reid. We could have brought Andy Reid back. Maybe we could have persuaded him in some way. Obviously, great systems, but the man, you know, has retired happily after a long, long career as a head coach in the NFL. Wasn't going to come back to join us as an offensive coordinator, so we had to go and search for some young talent, and we found it. Zach Taylor. He's the quarterbacks coach, or rather, I should say, was the quarterbacks coach of the Los Angeles Rams. Previously offensive coordinator with the Miami Dolphins in 2015. Now, Zac Taylor has been a quarterbacks coach pretty much ever since he got his first full position in the NFL, and even when he went back into the college system. So I think he will do very well with Josh Rosen. And now we know who we've got. Now we know what kind of system he'll run. Now we know what kind of players we need. So the change makes us a West Coast zone run team, which I'm happy with, gotta say it. It's exactly what we need to do with a young quarterback. Set up the play actions with some runs and, then work into some bigger passes. Now let's advance the week and see if we can't find anyone that specifically fits the criteria of the Last Chance franchise and also happens to be a free agent. So here is the list of guys we want to bring onto the team. Dez Bryant. We're going to be looking to add him. Now, of course, we're going to have to improve all of our bids on these guys pretty much. But Dez Bryant we want on the team. He's going to be a good mentor. He's going to be a good fit for the team. And we're offering him 3 years. I don't know if he'll stay for 3 years. But we don't want to give him too much either. Robert Quinn we want on the team. This is a former Defensive Player of the Year. I think this is another guy. This is something we haven't done in previous years. We're looking to bring in mentors for players here. We're looking to bring in veterans that can teach them a thing or two and then maybe just go on their way. Then we have Rob Havenstein, who Zac Taylor wanted this guy. Of course, he was just with the Rams, ran his rookie contract out, but this is a guy Zac Taylor was mad for. Said, we need him on the team. If you want the right side locked down, if you want a good power guy to power runs forward, this is the man we need for the scheme. And so we took him. Zach Miller, we're glossing over a guy here, but Zach Miller, talk about last chance. He absolutely fits it because, of course, the big injury. And with that, we're offering him a chance. He's also a scheme fit, can bring Devin Cajuste along a little bit. Of course, Havenstein, a little bit of a stretch for fitting this scheme, but, let's say never lived up to the potential because he was all rookie in his first year and then hasn't got any awards afterwards. There you go, Robert Quinn. Former Defensive Player of the Year, since then had injury problems. Dez Bryant, we know why he fits. And then this is our last chance, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. This one is for all the old Cardinals fans out there. It's our last chance to make this pairing that was missed in its prime. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie was traded away by the Cardinals. Let's not even talk about for what, but he was traded away by the Cardinals the year that Patrick Peterson arrived. So Rodgers-Cromartie's first year away from Arizona was Patrick Peterson's first year there. This is probably our last chance to bring the two together. So two guys have joined us. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and Zach Miller. Big names to join us. Very happy with both of those. Zach Miller will do a great job for us, and I'm happy to be able to offer him this second chance after his injury. And I'm happy to be able to take advantage of this last chance to put these two players together. These two have declined our offers, and that's fine. I said we weren't going to overpay for them, and we didn't. We've got upgrade players apparently, and we're not going to go back into the free agency market. That's it, we're done. Hey, look at that, what a bargain. You sign a guy, you can upgrade him immediately. We'll take that one gladly when he's already the best. Oh, I accidentally did man-to-man rather than zone. So in the next episode, we'll be adding some much-needed talent to this team, mainly because we've got hardly any players. If nothing else, we need just a few positions filled. But of course, we're looking for players of the future. Our starting quarterback is Roberto Aguayo right now. Of course, that's going to be Josh Rosen. We need a backup for him as well. We don't have one on the draft board, but we'll just take a flyer on one, hopefully, when we've got some picks. Next up, we'll be looking at the NFL draft in the next episode.